Hello and welcome to BA 339, Operations and Quality Management. I'm Elizabeth Gibson, and this video is going to introduce you to the foundational concepts of operations and quality management across the supply chain. Okay, so what do I mean by foundations? Okay, the class is Operations and Quality Management. Operations and quality, you see those two foundations there. Across the supply chain, the third foundation, operations management, quality management, supply chain management. We're going to talk about those. All right, so starting with supply chain management. What is this? Well, really, simplistically, it's the business logic to build and deliver value to the customer. It could be a product or it could be a service. Okay, so what's this product look like? Well, yeah, it's a bottle of wine, right? A pretty simple product. But you know what? When we start looking at it and looking at all of those processes along the supply chain, it's not really that simple to build and deliver a bottle of wine and get it to a customer. Okay, the other thing you might be saying is, yeah, I'm not really a product person. I'm living in the service economy. I go out to eat. Okay, well, over here on the right, maybe you're at a restaurant or, you know, you're doing some sort of service, food service, okay? And so you're going to be serving wine. That would be a service aspect to the same type of industry. All right, let's start with the simple product. We have our bottle of wine. Now, I said it gets a little complicated. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things happening here to get that bottle of wine to the customer on the right so they're loving your product. Okay, this model is the business model canvas, and I've adapted it from Alexander Osterwalder. But what you see here is, in order to get that bottle of wine, I need grapes, right? And maybe I need a supplier, or maybe I'm a farmer and I'm producing the grapes and I have this gorgeous vineyard. That'd be cool. You know, I'm in Portland, I've been to some of those, so I thought this might be a good example that students could relate to. All right, but grapes and farming costs money. So ka-ching, there's your first cost, right? You want to get this, produce this bottle of wine, but I'm already starting to rack up costs. Now, there's other key activities and resources required. I've got the grapes, but how do I get them into the bottle? How do I get that bottle designed? You also notice no label on the bottle. You know what? I might be a great farmer, but I'm not so great with design. Maybe I need to outsource that. Okay, I also need to figure out how to now get my bottle of wine over to where the customer can look at it. And that takes distribution channels, shipping, logistics, until finally a customer can actually purchase the wine and pay money for it, and that's revenue. So, okay, a lot of key activities and processes going into building and delivering logic for that bottle, for that product. I think you're getting it. Okay, now let's look at the service. Okay, from a service perspective, you have also key activities and resources, but your distribution channels might be a little bit different. You might be dealing in some volume things. Okay, you might be a little bit more concerned with those logistics transportation issues. Okay, so you have a product or a service, but the supply chain management is managing the value of all of those processes and linking them together so you can deliver the value to keep your customer loving your product or service. Supply chain management. Sounds a little scary, but think about it as managing the processes along the chain to supply the product or service. A little bit better, maybe. Okay, that was our foundation for supply chain management. Next, operations management. Now, a little bit about me is I was born and raised in Detroit. So something I'm pretty comfortable with is automobiles, a little bit more than just being a user and driving one. So we're going to talk totally different about a little bit more complicated product on how things are produced, because operations management is about how you build that product or service. So let's talk the automobile. Think way back 1900s, okay? So you typically had a group of people in a garage being pretty creative, developing a unique vehicle. We had three-wheelers, we had four-wheelers, we had electric vehicles, we had gas vehicles. There were some things with the electric that came later, but you kind of get it. What came next in that operations? Innovation that you read in chapter 4, but think about it. It was the innovation of the assembly line, and that was Ford. Okay, so what do you see different between picture 1 and picture 2? Picture 2 shows how the operation was totally redesigned and you're passing those parts along a line. Very different operation. Okay, progressing along our timeline here. Computers. Okay, why did computers come into play? Computers came into play, and robots and robotics, and that's actually my background here, but a lot for safety, for efficiencies too, and safety, right? So think about your personal and employee health and safety. Maybe it was less risky for a company to have a robot welding than a human. Now where are we? We're advancing along to factories like these. What do you notice here? Not too many people. Okay, and there's some things changing in the operations. So let's think about what's driving this and the reasons for change. Okay, so the assembly line, we had the assembly line, then we did offshoring, then we did robotics and smart robotics. Well, it's this big push for lower product cost. Lower product cost, so everybody could have one. Okay, while you were doing those custom vehicles, one at a time, they were really expensive. The assembly line and Ford's vision was, hey, if I can get the cost lower with this new operations process, then every employee can afford to have one. Volume, okay? And I can actually make more money. So cost. The other thing with offshoring, new market entry, okay? So if we could put a factory in somebody else's country, they could buy our product. And then the cost reductions for human health and safety. So let's summarize some of those reasons for change, okay? And go back through the timeline. We had the assembly line, there was offshoring there, robotics and smart robotics. These operational changes were being put in place to lower your product cost. If the cost was low enough, more people buy, more money, okay? The other reason for offshoring was entry into a new market. Okay, so now we're getting into some politics. A complicated product has social, technical, and political ramifications. So if I have a production facility in their country, maybe they'll buy it, think China, okay? And the smart robotics, it's not just a cost, but a lot more push now coming into play for human health and safety issues. All right, so we rode this momentum for mass production, lower product costs for quite a while. Are we still there? Let's look ahead. Okay, so we're at the mass production. Maybe you're on the same page, but you know, we've got a story going. Now what's happening? Well, we're pushing and we're driving toward mass customization. Oh boy, we started at customization, those customized vehicles with a group of people, probably in a garage. But now we're going back toward mass customization. Okay, technologies are really being big, playing in this space. 3D printing, okay? And that's a different kind of manufacturing process that allows us to eliminate waste in the manufacturing. So instead of cutting and stamping things out of materials, we're building it up and we don't have waste. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Also now, instead of smart robots, we have intelligent robots. Some different things here is they can move. Think about a factory that has no lights on, okay? And you just have this intelligent robot doing all of the system assembly all day long, 24 hours a day. They don't need to stop. What's that doing to your supply chain? Well, that's flattening out your system integrators. So some real dynamics and things happening here. If you're the kind of person that wants to explore this a little bit further, this could be a good perspective. Okay, so we're driving up to that mass customization. Okay, that's fine for a product. But again, maybe you're a service person. Okay, smart health. Think this word smart. Smart home, smart transportation, smart cities, smart anything. You know what? I have my smartphone right here. All right, smartphone, smart communications. So let me give you an example. And this is a true example that we're working on. I'm a physician. I have a cardiac patient. In order to really monitor their health and be proactive and see if they're going to have a heart attack, I want them to get on the scale every morning and tell me if their weight fluctuates by 3 pounds. If it does, they're prone. This is one of the symptoms. But that's kind of a burden for my patients. Some of them really don't want to acknowledge. Maybe there's a lot of reasons they might want to call my office. So if I had a device set up where every morning their job was only to get on the scale and the rest was taken care of for them, that could be a service. The other thing, I had a wonderful vacation this summer. I was flying back from Europe, stopped in Boston. The picture of the bus there, what was very fun is I had a layover, and so I asked my husband, hey, do you want to go into the city? And he's like, okay, sure. So we took a bus out of the airport, and that bus stopped for about 15 seconds and turned into a light rail car. Bus to light rail. How much longer before it's also a hovercraft to a bus to a light rail, and I don't have to get out or make any transfers at all. So services, think that when you're thinking service. Okay, so operations, it's all about changing, and in a lot of cases, putting the technology in. So what's driving this technology? Well, if you haven't heard about the Internet of Things yet, it's coming and it's going to be huge in our field, especially in the supply chain. So right now, let's take this word ubiquitous. What does ubiquitous mean? You'll see it in literature, you'll see people bandying it about. It's kind of a buzzword. But what that means is I'm the user and I can get information and connect to the internet anytime, anywhere. Me, my favorite tool of choice is my smartphone. Maybe it's yours too. But I'm in control of it and I can get it when I want it. Now, we're driving toward ambient. And what's ambient? Okay, this isn't just in the movies. What ambient is the information is being pushed to me. So I have things like dashboards. My smartphone's set up that maybe when I go through the mall, all of the specials are pushed to me. Now you see this, Google's in this in a big way. If any of you have noticed that all of a sudden apps are starting to pop up on your phone and you're like, I didn't really ask for that. Or you're shopping and then it says, hey, you might want to go around the corner and get a cup of coffee, and you're like, that feels a little icky. How'd they know I was here? Well, you probably have your GPS turned on and there's an app. Okay, that's ambient. Whether customers are ready to adopt that or not, those are some of the considerations that you're going to be thinking about in these operations. But here's a big point. Whether you're comfortable or not, it's here and it's coming. Over 20 billion devices, tags and sensors are going to be attached to the internet by 2020. 20 billion is a big number. They're here. So let me give you a specific example for me. Maybe I'm interested in the smart home. And another thing about me is I've raised 4 kids. So let me talk about food in my fridge. Okay, as a young mom, maybe working and trying to be a mom, I wanted baby formula in my fridge. And boy, would it really be nice when I pick the kids up from daycare, have them in the back seat, and they're hungry, to have that just the right temperature in my fridge when I get home. Boy, I would be loving that. Now, would my child want baby formula when they're 13? No. Maybe I've moved or changed to milk, juice, soda pop. Okay? So, smart home, think about that. It's coming. You know, hey, do you want that wine? You know, I'm out of wine. I'd like a nice bottle. Just order it up on your smartphone and it's there when you get home. We're talking about those kind of things. How far out are they? How comfortable are your customers? What kind of profile does your customer have to have about them? And what's the logic that you have to put in place to make that happen? All right, so now the third area is quality management. Quality is really about being connected to your customer so you get to keep them. Remember what I was talking about with the baby formula and the milk and the soda pop? Well, yeah, if all of a sudden I got home and I had baby formula in there, but my kids were 6, you'd probably lose me as a customer, okay? So you have to always be in touch with the value proposition and what the customer values. An apple, let's talk quality. Quality is subjective and it's a value. Now, most of us can agree that if I had ordered in that smart refrigerator and I opened it up and I see an apple with worms in it, not quality, right? But there's different levels of quality. What type of apple? How crisp? Okay, and then changing preferences. Am I always going to be the one ordering it at that address with that IP address? No, maybe I have a family. Maybe they have different values. So being in touch and being able to manage all of this builds loyal and sustainable customer base, because quality management is about being able to change those processes in operations or change those processes in the supply chain. Your vendors might be great for a while, but then maybe not so great, and maybe you need to change one. How do you know? How do you set up the systems to measure and monitor that? So, quality processes and quality management is the way to do that. So, what you'd be looking at here is most companies have some sort of quality operating system, even if it's not explicitly stated. And a quality operating system is built on policies, processes, and procedures. Policies, what are those? Those could be like the corporate social responsibility statement. You're going to see quality statements in the mission, right? Customer service values. You're going to find those in the annual reports. Processes are how we do that, how we manage and monitor our quality. How do we change those things? What they are. Procedures are the details and the steps on how to get them completed. So it's actually how to do the work. So the quality operating system and the quality management is really a good perspective if you're the kind of person that really wants to stay close to that customer and always be up to date and change things. Operations management is really good if you like to understand the nitty-gritty on how to build the product. Do you like product development? The best edge, the unique product, okay? Something that's going to have you leading edge. That's a really good area to explore. And the supply chain cuts across it all. That's where we're doing operations and quality across the supply chain, because the supply chain is inside and outside, touches those vendors, customers. It's all of the processes along the supply chain and making sure there's a good flow. All right, that's it for our introduction. So in summary, right now, I'm hoping that you've gained a little bit more of an understanding about the importance of supply chain in operations management. We've discussed key activities and processes along the supply chain. We did that for a product and a service. Remember the bottle of wine and then drinking wine in a restaurant? Think about that. We also talked about that automobile process. So the overview for the 3 management foundations were the supply chain management, the operations management, or the quality management. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to explore each of these one at a time. And by the middle of the course, I'm hoping that you have some sort of perspective you're a little bit more affiliated with and you want to try out a little bit stronger and deeper. So that's our overview for operations and quality management. That sets the stage for building and identifying those key processes for next week. This is Elizabeth, and I'll see you online.